Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're gonna be talking about books. Like, my whole YouTube channel isn't based on books, but yeah, we're gonna be talking about books. Today's video is going to be how I read so much. Yeah, you're asking, oh my god, Amy, how do you read so much? I'll tell you my tips and tricks on how I read 100+ books a year. So yeah, here we go. And this doesn't make you any less of a reader if you don't do this. I'm just giving you like, oh, if you want to read more, here are some tips and tricks on how to read more. My past credentials are, in 2022, I started reading in June, and from June to the end of the year in 2022, I read 83 books. And then in 2023, I read 164 books. And then right now, the end of August in 2024, I have read 107 books. So I'm gonna give you my tips and tricks on how I read so much. I would say I feel like, okay, you know that thing? I've always been a reader. I just really got back into reading. I was never a reader when I was a kid. I actively hated reading. I lied on my reading logs. My mom she would try to be like, oh, you should read for 20 minutes every day. Never read it. Let's get on to the tips and tricks. You don't care about my reading history. My first tip into consuming books and like reading more books is read what you want, like mood read. I think mood reading has changed my life. You can get into reading slumps so fast. Luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had like a crazy reading slump where I'm just like, ooh, I don't want to read, but like read what you want to read. I think mood reading's the biggest tip. Read what you want to read, but read with like taste. I think if you don't read BIPOC authors, I don't trust you. Sorry about it. Reading is very subjective. Honestly, extend your palette. If you're just a purely romance reader, I do recommend like branching out. If you're a purely high fantasy reader like Tolkien, Game of Thrones, all that, like it's fun to branch out. It's fun to branch out. I read from a number of genres. I would say my favorites right now are literary fiction. I love a literary fiction book. I love fantasy books. I don't really care for like romantic-y reads. I love stuff like the Mistborn series, the Greenbone saga. I love character-based fantasies, but not just character-based fantasies that like don't have a plot. I love plot. I think plot is so important to me. I think plot and action are so important that if they don't have plot and action, I'm out of there. Those are some of my favorite genres. I love romance too. More literary fiction like Emily Henry type of romances and like Yulin Kwong romances that are right up my alley. I love those types of books. But like honestly, I can find myself like enjoying anything. Like I don't really reach for thrillers, but like maybe one day I'll read thrillers. Like I'm not like boxing myself into certain categories of reading, and I feel like branching out and reading what you want to read at that moment is very helpful to keep on being consistent with reading. So yeah, my next tip is consume book content. Whether it's BookTok, Bookstagram, BookTube, I think that's what like really pushed me. I feel like, I saw the aesthetic for If We Were Villains on TikTok and I was like, I really want to read that book. I'm gonna go to Barnes & Noble and buy that book. But I feel like seeing people like rave about books is something that like was like, oh yeah, I should read more books. I was watching Haley Pham when she really started to get back into reading, and then she like talked about If We Were Villains and I was like, that sounds really interesting. So I feel like if you consume book content and like take in other people's recommendations, then you find a sense of community with the book people. And so like my Goodreads friends, they're reading and I'm like, oh, I should read that, or like I should like look into that or something like that. And like I love updating everybody about my like journey and like the books I'm reading. So I feel like finding a community on like TikTok, BookTube, Instagram is so fun. So I feel like if you consume book content, then you're more likely to read. Because I FOMO. And so when somebody's reading a book, I'm like, I need to figure out what this book is about. FOMO drives my life, I guess. Next tip goes along with like the mood reading one. Is take breaks. You don't have to read every single moment of your life. You don't have to finish a book in one day. I like having the balance. I love like scheduling out time to read, but I also know that like if I force myself to read when I don't want to read, it's like not gonna lead to anything good happening. So I feel like if you don't want to read, don't read. If you want to read, read. I don't know, like it really depends on like what your situation is. Like I'm in school, like I'm a full-time college student right now, and so I find time whenever I want to read. Like I find it, I'll do it like at night, I'll do it midday, I'll do it when I don't want to think about schoolwork. I don't know. It depends on like how you block out your time. I would say take breaks if you want to. Don't force yourself to read every moment of your life. Next thing I want to talk about is audiobooks. I don't personally use audiobooks. I don't really like audiobooks. I don't think I can absorb information and plots and everything like that from audiobooks, but I know people love audiobooks. And like, so if this is a medium of book intake that you enjoy and like you find beneficial for you, I totally recommend audiobooks. I wish I was an audiobook girl. I'm doing other stuff while doing the audiobook, and so I feel like I cannot focus on the book at hand. So yeah, that's just not for me, but audiobooks are a great resource. They're so fast, they're so easy. You can just put headphones on, 2x speed, you'll finish a book in like 8 hours. They're so good. You can like take them on walks. I wish I liked audiobooks. I think there's an Audible subscription, and then like you get 20 free hours with Spotify if you're not on the student plan. And then I know you can get audiobooks from Libby or like the library. So Audiobooks are everywhere. Find them. Use them, maybe, if you like them. Next goes along with kind of like the audiobook aspect is ebooks. I think ebooks are my favorite. I don't know. Are they my favorite type of books to read? I think my Kindle has changed my life. I think ebooks in general are like so beneficial. You can take so many books on this little Kindle. There's a bunch of different ways of like having an e-reader. You can get like the subscription that goes along with. Kobo has a subscription for them. Kindle has Kindle Unlimited, and then you can also get a local library card and then hook up your Kindle with Libby. I don't know really how that works, but I do think I will do that. I want to utilize my library a lot more, and I really love my Kindle. I switch off between reading on my Kindle and like the Kindle app because I feel like the Kindle app is just so convenient. It's already on my phone. I don't really have to like stop being on my phone because I'm obsessed with my phone. But then I think I focus more when I'm on my Kindle, but like I feel like I'm also missing out in the real life because when I read on the Kindle app on my phone, I like to go on like other apps like every chapter or something like that. So this one I feel like keeps me at the task of reading a little bit more. But yeah, really utilize Libby. I think Libby is so important for when you're like trying to get into reading because you just go to the local library and be like, can I get a card? I know people that have utilized Libby and love Libby, so yeah. I also read faster on an e-reader. My next tip is find ways to focus while reading. Like I said, I get unfocused so easily. I just like want to get back on my phone. So having ways to focus while you're reading, I feel like I focus differently on different types of books. Like I would say like a romance book, I really don't need too much like attention. I know a lot of people don't really like listening to music. You can listen to like something like ambient noise, like brown noise or something like that. Or you can like listen to music without like any lyrics and stuff like that. I personally don't find like the lyrics that distracting, so I listen to just like anything when I'm reading. So yeah, I love listening to music when I read because I feel like it gets me in the zone. I'm not thinking about anything other than reading, and so I feel like that helps me focus a lot. Find any ways you want to focus. Maybe it's silent, no headphones. That's fine. Sometimes I'm like that too. It really depends on like the book, I would say, for me. Next is scheduling out time to read. I would say the most like common are like reading before bed. I like to have a lot of times that I'm like, ooh, I can like wind down and read and not really think about like the schoolwork I have to do or anything else. So schedule out your time for reading because it builds routine. I'm not really a routine girly, so take that with a grain of salt. Another tip to like schedule out time, I use reading as a reward. Crazy that I would want to read. When I'm really stressed doing like assignments, I would be like, oh, I'll do this assignment and then I'll take a break and read, and then I'll do this assignment. It's kind of like TikTok time, I would say. Like I use TikTok as a reward or like being on my phone as a reward as well. But like it really depends. Like if I'm really enjoying a book, I'll stop it and be like, I gotta get this work done and then I can read this book. Use it as a reward system. We're all children, so use it as a reward. Those are all the tips I have. I'm gonna tell you how I personally read and like the tips that I use that I put on this list. I use most of them. This is how I personally read 100 books. I was never the biggest reader as a kid. I didn't read like traditional books. I just was really never into it. And like there was like some spurts of reading. Like I would say in 6th grade, one of my best friends wanted to join Battle of the Books. And I was like, I want to join Battle of the Books too. 6th grade, tried reading a little bit more. I read some like middle grade books, but I never really was like, ooh, this is great. And then 8th grade is when I started reading a little bit more. 8th grade and 9th grade year, I was in my Shadowhunter phase. And so I read The Mortal Instruments. I read The Mortal Instruments, and then I read like some Harry Potter books. But yeah, that's all I really read in 8th grade and 9th grade. And then I stopped reading. And then senior year came along. I read a little book called If We Were Villains by Emma Riel. Really enjoyed it. No, I read the first 2 books in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, but then I stopped reading because I didn't like the 3rd book. I was like kind of freaked out by the 3rd book, so I stopped reading that, soft DNF that, and then I quit reading. And then I went on a plane and I wanted a book for the plane, so I read Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book was the one that like was like, ooh, I need to really get back into reading. So I finished the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, read another Christina Lauren book, and here we are. To this day, we're here because of these 2 books, I would say. These 2 books are the books that got me back into reading. Very like, whoa, this is Dark Academia. This follows my like, ooh, I love fall. I love like that aesthetic. I don't live that aesthetic. I just like it. I think it looks fun. I think it's like the fall, little like Oxford College like setting. I love that setting. Cannot do that. You want to see my outfit right now? I don't live it. I don't think it looks good on me, but I just love Dark Academia books. So here we are. That's one side of my personality. Then we have the light fluffy romances. Light fluffy romances, that's my thing. My first tip when I'm reading, it's mindless reading. I turn off my internal voice. Someone else said this on TikTok. I don't know who, I don't remember, but they talked about it so well. Like you turn off your internal voice. So like you're not reading every single word in your head. Like, you know, when you're reading in your head, you read hide, Marshall, hissed, and echo. So like you'll say that, but like don't read that. Like turn off that voice. You still get the same information. You're just not taking the time to like speak it out in your head, I would say. Like, I don't know. I turn off my internal voice sometimes when I read to like read faster, I would say. That's a tip that I do. I do that so much. But this is like, it mostly like happens with like romanticy books or like romance books, or like I would say like the fluffier, lighter books that I can do that with. I don't really do that for literary fiction or like more like politics heavy fantasies. I do it with certain types of books, but yeah. Next is another tip that I've talked about, like I just mood read. I don't like to box myself into books that I want to read, and so that's why I really don't do TBRs that much. I say that I have a September TBR and I have a fall TBR, but like I don't like to like say I have to read this book this week. And so I feel like if you're doing like booktube and like you do like themed reading vlogs like me, I feel like sometimes it is like a little harder to like know what I want to read because I want to do themed videos and stuff like that. So like it really depends. But like when I do want to like mood read, I allow myself to mood read. I don't force myself to do certain types of videos just because I want to get this video done. I'd rather just like read what I want to read at the time I want to read it. You know what I mean? My last thing is probably very personal, is because I do booktube. I love filming these videos. I love talking to you guys about books. And so because I do this as a hobby, and I think it's so fun, and because I'm in this like book atmosphere, I love reading to tell you guys about books that I love. And so I feel like so motivated to read like and talk about the books I read because of everybody watching my videos. So yeah, that's how I read 100 books a year. I want to put this out there. Reading one book or like reading 2 books does not make you any less of a reader than someone reading like 300 books a year. Like it does not matter. I feel like it really only matters about the books that you want to read and want to consume and seem interesting to you. Like it's so subjective. Like some people, it really is so personal. That's why I love reading and like love talking about books, because everyone has their own opinion about the books. And so at least on my channel, everything's so positive. So yeah, if you want to be in a positive bookish community, I'm here. I'm here for all y'all. Ew, that was so southern of me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. Comment down below what books are on your TBR. What books are on your radar. Talk to me in the comments. I love you guys. I love talking to you guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!